Hello everyone and welcome to Football Manager 2016. This is the second part in a series focusing on Cardiff City Football Club, who is a save I've got going where I'm trying to win the Premier League using only Welsh players. No small feat because there aren't that many Welsh players out there who are that good. So, I'm kind of limiting myself to try to achieve something I think be quite special. So this is my second season. First season, if you remember, I got promoted from the Championship. Quite surprised, to be honest, but Cardiff do start off with a fairly strong squad, so shouldn't have been too surprised. I then had my first season in the Premier League, and we ended up fifth, which was fantastic. Mostly helped by pre-season form. You can see here we finished fifth, 18 wins, 10 draws, 10 losses, and a goal difference of plus 15, 64 points. Finished above Manchester United, but a fair way off fourth place, 9 points off fourth place, and also a long way off first place. Despite being there or close to there, during the start of the season, we were first at some points. We had a very, very strong start to the season. I'll show you my schedule. So you can see here we were the 1-0. We were the kind of 1-0 masters basically at the beginning. We won a lot of games 1-0. I don't know how much of that was luck and how much of that was just decent defence and kind of doing what Leicester are doing this season really, which is having just a very solid team and probably a bit of confidence from last season. So as you can see, we, barring a 2-0 loss to Chelsea, our first, run of games, we won every single game, apart from one loss, one draw. Got hammered by Everton, and that was really the start of what was a rough period, I would say. Went through a few games where we really struggled. So we were kind of flying, this first part of the season. And I'd say this was the part where tactically we were starting to get a bit found out. Some of our players weren't strong enough, and performances were dipping basically. In particular, we were finding goals very hard to come by. I'll go through that when I talk about transfers in a bit. And we still did well in the Cups. So we were knocked out in the semi-final by Liverpool in the Capital One Cup, and we got beaten by Liverpool in the FA Cup final. So Liverpool are now my absolute nemesis. We beat them 2-0 at the beginning, third game in the league, and then proceeded to lose our next 3 games to them. Although we drew one more game in the semi-final, but then ultimately lost in the other leg of the semi-final. In some ways, I was kind of happy not to win anything in my second season because I think it would have put more pressure on me as you go. Most of the time when you play in games, you want to win as much as possible, but the realistic thing with Cardiff is because of the way I'm trying to play it. So I'm trying to play with I can only buy Welsh players is effectively the rule I have. So I can play players if they originally are with Cardiff. I can't buy any players who aren't Welsh or have a Welsh nationality basically with them. So kind of bearing that in mind, I have to build for the future. I have to look to youth. I have to. There aren't that many world-class Welsh players out there. Sorry to say if you're Welsh, but you know that. You've got Gareth Bale, you've got Aaron Ramsey, you've got a few others out there. But ultimately, there's probably not a world-class 11 Welsh players, and certainly not. I don't think I'm ever going to be in a position where I'm going to be able to sign Gareth Bale. Maybe in a few years. Who knows? He might fall out of favour at Real Madrid, but he might well be past it by then. So I don't know. But yeah, and then we had a struggle towards the end of the season. A few narrow losses, too many draws, to be completely honest with you. A good 5-1 victory over Manchester United there. Johnny Williams' hat-trick was a real kind of nice way to get towards the end of the season. beating Swansea in the FA Cup semi-final as well. Another very high point, because obviously Swansea are the nemesis of Cardiff and vice versa. Big rivalry there. I think I beat them. Yeah, I beat them 1-0 away, and then how was the home leg? And I beat them 2-1 at home. So I basically beat them in all the games, which is great, from a fan perspective. In terms of the team, what did I do with it? So there are some new names in it. Let's have a look at the transfers. Transfer history. We want to have a look. So this is what we did. So we let a lot of players go. We brought in £10 million. Biggest was Fabio. He was one of our star players last season, so it was a big decision to let him go. But because he's Brazilian, I kind of felt like if I was going to get a good offer for him, I'd let him go. He played very well for us last season, and to be fair, he played decently for Stoke as well. So, disappointing. But if I'm going to win the Premier League with an all Welsh team, I can't afford to be holding on to these players too much longer, especially if I'm getting a good price for them. Adam Lefondre was the other big price who went. Again, he didn't play for me last season because he played for Wolves. Scored a lot of goals in the Championship though, 30 goals in Championship. Premier Division perhaps didn't do quite so well. So I feel that was definitely the right decision. We had a very large transfer budget, which surprised me. I think they gave us about 27 million. So I was pretty surprised that I was getting that much to start in the Premier League. It was also a bit frustrating because there's only so many Welsh players who you can buy, and generally they're not too expensive. So as you can see here, the players I brought in, Emir Hughes was the one of the biggest signings. Young, 23, Welsh, plays the Welsh side. Picked him off Wigan, I think it was. Yeah, Wigan. Yeah, he played in the Championship, did okay. He did okay for me this season. I will be looking for a bit more from him next season. Got some decent stats, something you can build on, I think, anyway. And his potential ability is decent, good. But for some reason, I don't quite seem to be able to get the best out of him. I have been playing him in playmaker roles, and he's not done brilliantly. I'm thinking of dropping him perhaps down to the defensive midfielder role. We'll see. We'll see what we do next season. Second big signing, Adam Matthews. Proven Premiership kind of player, played for Sunderland. Before that, he was at Celtic. Paid a lot for him. If I'm completely honest, they bought him for 2 million. He played 5 games poorly, and I paid a lot for him. But that was the other thing. I have to play a lot sometimes, overpay for players who are Welsh, because sometimes the clubs don't want to sell them. So, I definitely overpaid for him. But he did very well for me, I will say that. I wouldn't say he's got the greatest stats in the world, especially not where I want to kind of play him. But he's pacey, which is great. He's got okay crossing. His actual defensive attributes are not the best. But, he did fairly well for me. 7.17 in his first season. I'm happy with that. I'll take that. Next up, James Chester. Very good defender, I think. 7.18 first season. Bought him for 6 million. I think that was a good buy. Well, it was a good buy. Basically, if it wasn't for the fact that I have to buy Welsh players, I think I would be happy with that buy. Quite a pacey defender. In that, for a central defender, that's pretty good. So, he was my kind of cover defender. Welsh international, did pretty well. Next up was probably my signing of the season, I'd say. Tom Bradshaw. Picked him up from Walsall. 13 goals in the season, 7.2 for a striker. Only paid 2.5 million for him. Decent stats. He's no Sergio Aguero, but he played very well for me. And to be quite honest with you, I think he's the best Welsh striker I could possibly get currently. So interested to see what he's going to do next season. He's now worth 4.6 million. His potential ability is not bad, actually. We'll see how he does. He's now the kind of Welsh number 1 striker, so that's interesting how that's going to go. Sam Vokes is next up. Paid a lot for him. He's on a lot of wages as well, 30 grand a week. He was probably the number 1 Welsh striker currently available. Very much the kind of target man. Didn't really do too brilliant for me. 8 goals, 30 games, 5 assists. Okay. Wanted a bit more out of him. Wanted him to lead a bit better. 6.99 is, average. He was my second highest signing. So, yeah, wanted a bit more. We'll see how he goes next season. I don't know if he's going to be playing every game next season, but we'll see. So made a lot of signings. I won't go through all of them, just go through the main ones. Joe Ledley, brilliant player. Used to play for Cardiff, so it's great to bring him back. Played very, very well for us. Absolute steal, 1.4 million. Crystal Palace had been relegated the season before, so got him on a real cheap. Yes, he is 29 going on 30, but great experience. Very, very good ball winning midfielder. Highly recommend. Even if I didn't have to buy Welsh players, I would have brought him. Johnny Williams as well. Was trying to get him for most of the season, because I know he can be a very, very good player. 17 appearances, 4 goals, 7.46 in the Premier League. Yes, we'll take him. I think he's going to be big in the future for me. Was there anybody else who's very kind of noticeable? Oh, probably Daniel Ward, goalkeeper, young Welsh goalkeeper, very good. Picked him up off Liverpool fairly cheaply. Not as good as my normal goalkeeper, David Marshall, or probably even Wayne Hennessy, but I decided to just play him because I need to build him up, basically. As I say, I'm not going to win the league this season. Well, I didn't win the league this season, but I'm not going to win it next season. I may not even win it the season after, but maybe in a few seasons' time, some of these players will come through, do well for me. So, it's going to be interesting to see who I can pick up now this season. I've got a couple of players who I'm interested in. If we go to international, I can show you how we're doing on Welsh numbers. So, if you remember, when I first started off with Cardiff, there was not one single Welsh player in the first team. Not one. For a team from the Welsh capital, that is incredible. But now, look how many we have. And in the Welsh international team, look how many we've got from Cardiff. We're building it up. Ideally, I want to have half the squad coming from Cardiff, if not more. There's a few players I've got my eye on. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to sign Aaron Ramsey. A few players I've got my eye on here, though, would be probably Harry Wilson. Definitely be one. I know he can be a big player. I've brought him before in the past, and he's been very good. Potentially Ben Davies as well. Very good left back, but not a wing back. So maybe we're going to have a change of tactics. So I did use my kind of 5-3-2 tactic for most of the season. Played it shorter. Went to a kind of normal tempo and a normal defensive line towards the end of the season, and had these attacking fullbacks. Still playing Macheda sometimes up front, even though he's not that good. Just one of the guys who I played a lot last season, Callum Saunders, who did very well in the Championship. Not quite so good in the Premier League. May not be his level. May need another season or two. We'll see how it goes. But I also had to make some decisions on some of my best players as well. So Joe Rawls is obviously a fantastic player. Played for most of the season. Probably going to have to sell him. Simply because he's English. He's dubbed the new Paul Gascoigne. So he's a really good quality player. He played very well for me this season, and it's going to kill me to sell him. But if I'm going to try and win the league with Welsh players, I can't have an Englishman in my midfield. I'm going to have to build up other players and put them in there. Like Lee Evans, who I signed off of Wolves. They're not as good, but I'm going to have to make them good enough, basically, to get in there. And I'm going to have to kind of some of my central defenders as well. I'm going to have to sign and go through. So it's something to think about as we go into the next season. One thing to remember next season, I'm in the Europa League, which is going to be interesting. We're in Europe. Don't think homegrown is going to be an issue. That's for sure. Got a fair few homegrown players. Trained at club, trained at nation. Not going to be a big problem. Haven't really got that many coming through on the under-21s. I need to have a look around, see, hoping that some good players come through who I can snap up. I don't think they've given me... Oh yes, sorry. Yeah, so our transfer budget this season is 51 million, which is quite staggering, really. So we could put it up to 57 and still be within our wage budget. So I can afford pretty much anybody I want. The problem is, Problem is, if we go into here and have a look and see who the Welsh players are, go value-wise, who are interested in joining me, there's not anybody there who I can spend 50 million on. If I wasn't doing this, we could be signing, James Ward-Prowse, Bril Mbolo, David Ospina, Delafeu, Yannick Bolasie. I'd love a Yannick Bolasie. Via Hatem Ben Arfa, Divock Origi. I could be signing some very, very good players. And that's what I'm actually very much enjoying about this, is that I have to be very careful with who I'm signing, going in for. So it's going to be a very interesting next season, how I go. And also the evolution of the squad, because the thing I have to remember is, while I like playing this tactic that I'm playing now, it may be that some young Welsh players come through who are great wingers, someone like Harry Wilson, for example, and I have to think about where I'm going to play them. Play to your strengths, something I always say. Maybe I'm going to have to, get my tactics changed to fit the players. It's, something I'm going to have to think about. As you can see, I think we did pretty well for the season. We're a very strong team. Very poor leadership, though. Something to think about. Declan John did very well in his first season in the Premier League. Played a 7.35. Not quite as good as in the Championship, to be fair. Didn't get his 13 man of the match. Still got 3. But Johnny Williams, Johnny Williams is a player who I'm going to be looking for to kind of take the step up next season. I think he was a bargain, and hopefully we can build from there. Considering where we came from, won the Championship last season, 5th now in the league. We'll see where we go next season. I don't know if I'm going to be able to have a full Welsh team by next season. I think I should be able to field an 11, but I don't know whether my squad is going to be fully Welsh. So we'll see how it goes. I'm not expecting to win the league next season. I'll be happy getting kind of 5th again, and then just kind of building up the youth team players, building up, see how it goes. Be nice to win a cup, something like that. But we'll see how it goes. But I'll keep you posted, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.